Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television GPTV. I'm Brett. In my hands is the Bequest #1, a fairly anticipated comic from AfterShock, and it's an interesting start. It's written by Tim Seeley, Freddie E. Williams II is the artist, Jeremy Caldwell is the colorist, Marshall Dillon is the letterer. I want to start off saying, fantasy's never quite been the genre that I really dig. High fantasy is not my thing. I roll my eyes at Lord of the Rings, Conan the Barbarian is kind of where I start drawing the line. I enjoy fantasy to some extent, but more of the Battle Chaser set. That Final Fantasy, a little bit more steampunkish in style. That has always been, I think, a bit more entertaining, at least for me. This series is an interesting one, is that it kind of has that Battle Chaser look to it, but doesn't quite deliver that same over-the-top 90s adrenaline-filled, extreme type of storytelling. It's a interesting series, or at least a debut, that kind of mixes traditional fantasy with the modern world. And it's this weird blend between the two. And it's not quite in Birthright. I mean, Birthright from Skybound, I think, is straight up modern world with fantasy elements. It's not fantasy story with modern elements, if that makes sense. So this story is, there's this other world, and a bad guy comes from that and starts trading magical items for guns and missiles and bullets and all that stuff. His thought being, the guns and missiles and all that stuff aren't, there's no defense for it in his world, so he can go out and probably take it over, or do some damage, or whatever he wants to do. And this also leads to a proliferation of magic items in Chicago. So this group called War Party gets thrown into, or at least that calls themselves War Party, an unfortunate name considering everything going on online, is thrown into this real world where they are going to be tasked with policing those magic items. The story is it's decent. It's a good introduction to the characters. It's a good introduction to the world. Good introduction to the concept. It's not necessarily a concept that I think is super new, but the crew and where things are and all that, there should be something fairly interesting to this. It has a lot of potential. And I think that's the best thing, the best way to describe this first issue is there's a lot of potential. It's not one that's necessarily has blown me away. It's super, really excited me, but I think there's something there that could be really good. I mean, the fact that Chicago has been chosen for proliferation of weapons, Chicago is often listed as this, lawless place with tons of guns going around, high body count, all that. I can't... I would think that writer Tim Seeley would have chosen that for a reason, and it could be the reason. There's also, some interesting stuff with, at the end, and I'm not going to bring up, I don't want to bring up, and maybe that's the reason Chicago was chosen, because, I'll say, nice Blues Brothers reference, if everyone knows the line. That could have been the reason that the location was chosen, and that's definitely got some political overtones to it. There's a lot of potential to the comic, and what's interesting is the look of it. I kind of was going in thinking Battle Chasers and that kind of vibe to it, and it doesn't quite have that. It's a bit more grounded, if that makes sense. Battle Chasers was very over the top. I would say Battle Chasers is to anime. This is to, I guess, Lord of the Rings, more grounded fantasy. This would be, Battle Chasers is to anime. This would be to Conan the Barbarian. I think that's a better way of describing it. It's a little bit more, I think, the traditional conservative end of fantasy, if that makes sense. It's not that over the top, the over the top prevalent that became popular in the 90s and 2000s, stuff like that. The art is interesting. I'm not 100% sold on the art. Freddie E. Williams II is really, really talented, and there's some cool stuff about this. It's just one none of the art really, really hooks me. There's actually, I think, some issues in it where I thought what was shown was a bit confusing and kind of muddled through things. There's a few pages I probably would have done differently to make things a little bit clearer as to what was going on. But like the characters, I thought design were interesting. I actually kind of dig the characters a bit in that while they are traditional, they're not at the same time. The setup towards the end of like the reveal of who the guy from the beginning, that had like the intestines in his hand, who he is, I think was interesting, and like where the bad magic goes, I think is interesting. So again, it's a debut that's got just a lot of potential, and I think I'm really gonna take me to the second issue to judge. This could be another AfterShock series that builds on all the issues. They've got a lot of series where the first one I'm like, eh. Second one's like, okay, I like it a little bit more. And then third and fourth or fifth is like where I really start getting into it. So there's a possibility this could be one of those. So it's one where I'm going to punt my overall judgment for the second issue, and we'll go from there. So if you're into this, like, it's worth, if you like fantasy, it's worth checking out. Let's go with that. Like, if Tim Seeley's a hell of a writer, so, you know, I've got faith. But like, if you like fantasy, this one you'll probably dig. There's some cool, I don't know if I call it extras, but there's some cool stuff at the end where he does character charts for the various characters. But yeah, like, it's character sheets, not charts, but character sheets. So yeah, like, you get a good sense as to where I'm at. It's out in the comic shops now. You can go get it. We got a link beneath this video. Put in your zip code. Tell if a shop's near you. No shop, no problem. We do have some affiliate links. There are affiliate links, so we get a small percentage of that. By doing that, you help support our site, so thank you. Speaking of support, I want to thank AfterShock for hooking us up with the review copy. We appreciate that, and thank you for watching. Now, if you're into AfterShock, if you're into comics in general, check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. So until next time, keep reading those comics, and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.